She finally started talking, haltingly at first, her voice thick with tears and decades of held-back secrets. She confirmed it. Was Arthur. The property was theirs. But the letters, they weren't what they seemed. She told me the property, the cottage, was purchased by Arthur. He put her name on the deed for reasons she initially wouldn't fully explain. Said it was complicated. Said it was tied to my father. And the letters, she said they were real. The longing, the regret, the talk of stolen moments. They were from Dad. To Arthur. But they weren't love letters in the way I was thinking. They were code. Code. For what? For what kind of relationship between my father and his best friend required coded love letters and a secret property co-owned by the best friend and the wife? My mind went to darker places. Financial schemes? Illegal activities? What kind of secret life did my father have? And how was my mother entangled? Mom was still reluctant to give me the full truth. She kept saying Dad had reasons. Important reasons. That it was to protect us. To protect me. From what? From whom? Every answer opened up a new, more terrifying question. I felt like I was peeling back layers of an onion, each layer making my eyes sting with fresh revelations. I couldn't just let it go. Knowing Arthur was involved, it twisted the knife. Arthur, who bounced me on his knee, who taught me to ride a bike, who was always there, steady and kind. Was he just a good actor? Was his kindness a mask? Was he laughing at us, at my father's supposed perfect marriage, while he was secretly, what? My father's lover? His partner in crime? My mother's actual partner? The deed was in their names. I started looking back. At old photos. At memories. Looking for cracks I'd missed. Little details that seemed insignificant then, but now glowed with hidden meaning. The way Dad and Arthur would have these long, intense conversations, sometimes late at night, voices low. Mom would always leave the room. We thought it was just man talk. Business, maybe? Now I wondered. There were trips my dad took alone. Business trips, he said. Sometimes Arthur went too. We thought nothing of it. Now I questioned everything. Was that when they went to the cottage? Was that when they were meeting, But was Arthur? It just didn't fit. Unless the code wasn't just about who he was writing to, but what he was writing about. I went back to the letters. Read them again, searching for double meanings, for hidden clues. My dearest day, when will we see each other again? Maybe seeing each other wasn't about a romantic rendezvous. Maybe it was about a transfer? A meeting? I hate this distance. Distance from what? From a physical location? From a normal life? If only things were different. What things? Their inability to be together romantically? Or their inability to escape some situation? I started researching a Miller in that town. It wasn't easy. This was before everything was online. I called the county records office, asked about the property deed, confirmed it was in Arthur's name and Evelyn Miller's name, purchased on that specific date. No mention of George Miller. My father's name was nowhere on the property he wrote about with such longing. Why? Why would he write letters about a place he clearly cared about deeply, express regret about distance from it, yet not own it? The pieces weren't fitting neatly into a simple betrayal narrative. It was more complex, more layered. There was the possibility of Mom and Arthur having an affair. But the letters were from Dad to Arthur. There was the possibility of Dad and Arthur having an affair. But the deed was Mom and Arthur. And why the letters about a property Dad didn't own? I went to see Arthur. He was as devastated by Dad's death as Mom was. He looked older, frilier. Seeing him just amplified my confusion and pain. This was the man who had held me as a baby. How could he be involved in such a deep deception against his best friend? I couldn't bring myself to mention the box directly. Not yet. I circled it. Asked him about his history with my parents. Asked him about the cottage. When I mentioned the cottage, his face changed, just like Mom's had. A flicker of pain, of caution. He confirmed he owned it. Said it was a place for him to get away sometimes. I asked him if my parents ever went there. He hesitated. Said they visited a couple of times years ago. It didn't sound right. Dad's letters were full of longing for this place, yet Arthur made it sound like a casual visit. He was hiding something too. They were all in on it. My perfect, loving family. And their closest friend. Living a lie together. The weight of it was crushing. I felt utterly alone, adrift in this sea of secrets. I went back to Mom. I told her I'd spoken to Arthur. That he hadn't told me the truth. That I knew they were hiding something big. I showed her the specific letters, the ones written around the time I was born. They were full of extra urgency. Talk of needing to be careful, of eyes watching, of hoping the facade was convincing. Mom, please. I pleaded. What was Dad involved in? Was he in trouble? Was this about money? About hiding from someone? She looked at the letters. At the dates. And she finally told me. Not just about the affair, because as she'd said, it wasn't that kind of affair. It was about my father. And a past he had desperately tried to outrun. My father, George Miller. That wasn't his real name. He wasn't born George Miller. He was born someone else. In another state, a life he left behind completely in his early 20s. He changed his name, created a new identity. Why? Because he was running from something or someone. Mom told me the story. The real story. Back before they met, Dad was involved in something bad. She wouldn't give me the exact details, not at first. Said it was dangerous. Said even knowing the name was a risk. But it involved organized crime. He wasn't a boss, not a big player. But he got tangled up. Saw something he shouldn't have. Knew too much. Or maybe tried to get out. Whatever it was, his life was in danger. He had to disappear. Completely. He fled. Changed his name. Started over. Met my mother. He was constantly looking over his shoulder. He told her everything before they got married. She made a choice. A terrifying choice. To build a life with a man who was living a lie, always potentially one wrong step away from his past catching up. They created the identity of George Miller. The quiet, stable man everyone knew. Then I was born. And the stakes changed. It wasn't just about protecting himself and Mom anymore. It was about protecting me. He became even more careful. Even more paranoid. And that's where Arthur came in. Arthur wasn't just his best friend. Arthur was the only person from Dad's old life he still trusted. The only one who knew the truth. They weren't romantic. They were communication. Arthur was the intermediary. He was keeping tabs on things, managing certain assets Dad had left behind or needed access to covertly, monitoring for any signs that Dad's past might be catching up. The cottage? That was a safe house. Purchased by Arthur, but with Mom's name on the deed alongside his, because having Dad's name on any property except their primary residence was too risky. It was a place Dad could go if he ever needed to disappear quickly. A place for them to meet discreetly. The longing in the letters wasn't for Arthur's affection. It was for the ability to live openly, to not be constantly vigilant, to maybe even use the safe house freely without fear. The distance wasn't romantic separation. It was the distance from his past, a past he could never fully escape. Mom's affair with Arthur wasn't an affair at all. It was a front. A cover story for Arthur's constant presence in our lives. Why did they need a cover? Because Arthur wasn't just visiting socially. He was there, constantly, as a link to Dad's secret world, as a lookout, as a contingency plan. Their close relationship, their shared ownership of the cottage, it was all designed to look like a plausible, albeit complicated, relationship between them, so no one would suspect the real secret was about Dad. My mother wasn't just grieving a husband. She was grieving the constant, soul-deep terror of living a lie for 40 years. The exhaustion of pretending, of keeping a monumental secret from everyone, including her own daughter. Her relationship with Arthur wasn't romantic betrayal. It was a decades-long partnership built on fear, necessity, and absolute trust in each other to protect my father's secret and, by extension, me. My father wasn't a cheater. He was a man running for his life who built a beautiful, loving home on a foundation of sand. He wasn't perfect. Far from it. His past choices forced him into this life of deception. But he was a loving father. He created this elaborate, dangerous charade and put Mom and Arthur at immense risk, all to give me a normal life, a life free from the shadows he couldn't escape. The betrayal wasn't a simple matter of infidelity. It was a betrayal of trust, yes, but a betrayal of the truth itself. They hid their real lives, their fear, their burden. They let me believe in a perfect family that didn't exist, not in the way I thought. And Arthur, he wasn't betraying my father. He was risking everything, year after year, out of a loyalty so profound it's almost impossible to comprehend. That box, it wasn't just evidence of a secret affair. It was the archive of a secret life. A life of constant vigilance, of whispered fears, of extraordinary sacrifices made by people I thought I knew, but never truly understood. My father died thinking he had outrun his past. He died believing I was safe, having lived a life untouched by the shadows that pursued him. He died without ever knowing that in his final act, in leaving behind this box, he finally revealed the truth he had spent his life hiding. My perfect family wasn't perfect. It was a masterpiece of deception, painted with love and fear, built on a foundation of secrets I never knew existed. And now I'm left with the pieces. Trying to figure out how to live in a world where the people I loved the most were strangers, forced into roles they never wanted to play, all to protect me from a truth that, in the end, found me anyway. The perfect marriage, the perfect father, the loyal friend. All a carefully constructed illusion. And the most devastating betrayal of all? Not the lies they told, but the truth they had to hide, and the cost it took to protect me.